Let's talk about celebrities, shall we? Yeah, they are meant to be elevated to a certain level because of their status and all the things they've done or will do in the future. If you're a true celebrity, you've likely earned it, and thus continue to put yourself on camera so that you can continue to be a celebrity. Now, to be fair, there are various pressures that celebs have to go through to maintain celebrity and keep certain people above them happy. However, that doesn't excuse their behavior when it comes to certain matters. In fact, for the celebrities we're about to talk about, they made the worst possible move, and their careers were pretty much over because of it. We'll break it down for you. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 6. Michael Richards. We're going to start this list with an all-time classic, and proof that because of our modern age, cameras are well and truly everywhere. And if you're not cautious about what you say, you'll get dropped faster than anything. Michael Richards might not be a name you recognize on its own, but if you heard the name Kramer, you'd likely know exactly who we're talking about. Seinfeld was a show about nothing, and it came from the brilliant mind of Jerry Seinfeld, who based some of the characters in the show on those he knew in real life, including someone who was actually named Kramer. Michael Richards came in as the neighbor who was always there, even when you really didn't want him to be. He was a key part of the show's comedy and longevity, and you'd think that after the massive success the show had, he'd go on to do great things. Instead, he decided to back to the comedy circuit, performing at various clubs. That's totally fine. Except in 2006, during one of those shows, he was getting heckled by some black audience members, and he decided the right thing to do was to go and say slurs against them. We obviously won't say which ones, but you can take a guess at what he said, right? Anyway, even though it was caught on a camera phone, it was enough to go viral. And through that, the backlash hit him like a ton of bricks. No one will hire him, and he's done nothing of consequence since. That being said, Seinfeld is still on the air, and we know from personal experience that some channels focus on promoting Kramer for the reruns due to the character's popularity, and not so much the actor. Number 5. Will Smith. For many years, he was one of the biggest stars in all of Hollywood. He started out as a rapper, then got a big break via The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He then transferred over to movies, where he made all sorts of hits, and a few flops along the way. Even still, he's done really well for himself, and at the 2022 Academy Awards, he was set to get the honor that he hadn't gotten in his whole career, the Best Actor Award. He was basically a shoo-in for the award, as his performance in King Richard was incredible. However, what most people remember from that night was what happened about an hour before he did indeed get the award. Chris Rock was on stage to help set up a different award and decided to be the comedian that he was and go after some of the people in the audience. One of those people was Jada Pinkett Smith, Will's wife, and he made a joke about her bald head, which was due to the condition known as alopecia. She wasn't amused, and neither was Will, who got up from his chair, which was very close to the Oscar stage, went up to Chris Rock and slapped him for all the world to see. The moment was so shocking, so jarring, that many wondered if it was actually an act, given who the actors were. But no, it was 100% real, and that made it all the more damaging. They couldn't cut to a commercial break fast enough, and yet, even with all the chaos and uncertainty of what happened, they kept the Oscars going, and Will Smith did indeed win Best Actor for King Richard. But the fallout from the event would be harsh. First and foremost, there could have been charges pressed against Will Smith for assault, but Chris Rock refused to press charges. Second, the Academy dropped the hammer on Smith, stating that he couldn't be at the show for a decade, nor would he be nominated for any awards for whatever performances he did during that span. Naturally, his performances took a hit because he really hasn't done anything since the Oscars, and even his stuff behind the scenes has had setbacks and delays due to people not wanting to be too close to him, given his radioactive status. Will Smith will recover, though, and many argue that the punishment against him was a bit too harsh. In their minds, Chris Rock made a bad joke, and Will Smith was just defending his wife. Whether you buy that argument is up to you, but he's definitely one of the lesser offenders on this list, as we'll prove with. Number 4. Kevin Spacey. Granted, Kevin Spacey was never meant to be the best actor in Hollywood, or the biggest, but he could act. No one can deny that. And the irony of his particular downfall was that it happened during the biggest peak of his career, when he was making House of Cards. This was the show that helped Netflix achieve its fame, alongside other shows like Stranger Things, of course, as it showcased a deeply flawed man at the top of the White House, but was powerfully acted by Spacey. However, in 2017, when the show was still going strong, he was accused of illicit acts, not the least of which was misconduct with younger men. In fact, when the scandal fully broke, it was revealed that he was far-reaching in his impropriety and was allegedly even abusing people who worked on House of Cards. Thankfully, the world reacted quickly, and his character was killed off in House of Cards, leading to a final season that didn't feature him, and there are some who straight up block out his visage while he's on screen. One group did it with a cactus. Just as important, Spacey was supposed to be in a big movie at that time called All the Money in the World, and after the controversy, the filmmakers scrambled to save the film by straight up reshooting all of Spacey's scenes with a different actor, and said actor was nominated for his performance in the film. Since then, Spacey has been fighting to clear his name, but for many, it doesn't matter what the verdict is on that one. He's guilty in their minds, and if there is any justice out there, he won't get a major role again. Number 3. David Hasselhoff. Given what we've talked about, and what we still need to talk about, it's important to pivot to a career that was ruined, but things actually worked out in the long run. David Hasselhoff will forever be one of the most unique Hollywood stars, because while he hasn't had the biggest of hits, he was enough of a hit to keep going. It started when he was in Knight Rider, and then continued with Baywatch, where he became the Hoff. However, after things leveled out, he later became known for a viral video that was filmed by his daughter where he was drunk, on the ground, and failing to eat a cheeseburger, all while shirtless. It remains one of the most iconic videos the internet has ever been graced with, and due to this, the Hoff got the boot on America's Got Talent, making him the butt of many jokes, and it was kind of fair that people made fun of him. However, the uplifting part of this story is that Hasselhoff took this to heart and did his best to get better. And while he may not be making TV shows and movies anymore, his singing career over in Europe is, well, large. Seriously, we don't get it. He's huge in Europe. We don't question the process, but he hasn't had one of those drunk episodes, to our knowledge, since, and that's something to praise. Number 2. Charlie Sheen. Come on. We couldn't talk about fallen celebrities without talking about Charlie Sheen. This is a guy who fell so hard and so spectacularly that it deserves to be studied for all the right and wrong reasons. So let's rewind things a little bit, okay? Charlie Sheen is son of the legendary Martin Sheen, who was famous for various roles across his career, including Apocalypse Now, The West Wing, and so on. Charlie showed a lot of promise from a young age. He had famous roles in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Platoon, Spin City, and even teamed up with his dad for the famous film Wall Street, where he acted alongside Michael Douglas. Then, CBS reached out and asked him to be the star of a new sitcom they were doing called 2.5 Men, alongside John Cryer and others. You might not think the show would have worked, but it was the #1 show on cable, especially in the comedy category. The show was such a success that Sheen was making almost $2 million for a single episode of the series. How could anyone willingly throw that away? Simple. They were on drugs. And Sheen himself later admitted that he was on a lot of drugs when he did his infamous Tiger Blood interview, where he blasted the show's creator, Chuck Lorre, and said a bunch of slurs that would eventually lead to his firing from the show and his character being killed off on the series. But that's still only part of the tale. Afterward, he did try to rebound, admitting his faults, including that due to his acts, he was now HIV positive, and then doing a series with FX called Anger Management. It could have been a big bounce back if he had stayed the course. He didn't, and thus he's only done minor roles since then, including doing a commercial with his dad. As for the CBS series, it brought in Ashton Kutcher to replace him, and things kind of spiraled. In fact, It had one of the more infamous series finales, where they revealed that Sheen's character was alive, but they didn't bring Sheen back. Instead, they brought in a lookalike, just to have him and Chuck Lorre get hit with pianos after saying winning. So yeah, that outburst from Sheen ruined quite a bit more than you likely remembered. Number 1. Ellen DeGeneres. We could have easily made the whole list about her. Why? Because the scandal involving Ellen was multi-layered, complex, frustrating, and she arguably didn't get cancelled hard enough. On the one hand, Ellen DeGeneres is an icon of television because of the things she's done, including coming out as gay on her own sitcom, which was a huge moment in television history that no one, not even us, can deny. Then, after her show was cancelled, she slowly made her way to the world of daytime talk show television, even becoming the next Oprah in some respects, but with her own twist on things, of course. During her near 20-year run on TV, Ellen did all sorts of things to try and connect with her audience both in the studio and at home, but the thing that she was known for throughout the public was her continual request at the end of the show to be kind. That became her brand in many respects, and no one dared challenge it out loud. However, things finally came to a head when stories started to leak out that Ellen was, in fact, one of the meanest people in all of Hollywood. That's a hard thing to comprehend, given her energy, dancing, and how she was with her guests at times. And yet, as time went on and more information started to come into play, the truth slowly revealed itself. Ellen was a monster backstage, and that personality would occasionally leak into interviews with her guests, including an infamous one with Dakota Johnson. Ellen felt she was slighted by Johnson, and then when Johnson revealed the truth, Ellen spiraled in her attempt to recover from the faux pas. But that's just one aspect of things, as behind the scenes, she was apparently terrible to her crew, forcing them to do things in the name of business, even if it meant not taking time off for health or family death reasons. The big break came via a BuzzFeed article where Ellen was straight up labeled a tyrant on her own show, and many people had to remain anonymous due to the power that Ellen still wielded. Everything came to a head via a non-infamous speech by Ellen on an episode of her show after the controversy became public knowledge. She denied many of the allegations and basically said that she wasn't perfect, and that she was a work in progress, and that she wouldn't use the "be kind" mantra anymore. Yeah, it was the worst kind of apology that a celebrity can give, and the show continued on for a little while. Yes, it was cancelled, but only after a true farewell season. But the stinger of it all was that the show had really bad ratings in said final season, so at least she got one last punishment before heading out. Was it enough? Not really, as many of her victims didn't feel that true justice was served, but she hasn't done anything truly meaningful since, so that might be enough. And that's all from the realm of celebrity and the various actors and personalities who doomed themselves by their own hands, and how many in Hollywood are doing their best to not be like them in the future. Do you remember these scandals when they first broke out? And which of them left the biggest shock on your face when it was revealed? Do you think more celebs will be exposed like this and get similarly ostracized? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel.